Alright, so this video has been requested by one of the viewers here. I'm not sure why it's been requested, but we'll take a look anyway at the Bandit deck. So first let's take a look at the Bandit cards and see what the idea is here. So looking at the Bandit cards, we'll start from the bottom. We have the Iron Falcon Life Juggler, does 2 bleeding to enemies. It's pretty okay in a vampire type deck where you need the bleeding and get value out of the bleeding. The Carrot Cutthroat, if he has formation with a +1 boost and gets the 3 bleeding off, 7 points for 4, which is pretty good, but doesn't really synergize with a lot of Northern Realm cards. And it's also the only non-neutral bandit. So Cutthroat, again, it gives bleed to an enemy. This used to be alright in a vampire type deck, but the Juggler does it better now, because it gives 2 bleedings for stuff like Oriana, useful. The Highwayman does 1 damage, the target has 3 armor, does it 3 instead. I think everyone's pretty much aware this is not very useful most of the time. And the Wagon's not actually a bandit, but it goes with the bandits, because if you have bandit, it has Zeal. And it has order, gives something 3 armor. Now if that 3 armor prevents 3 damage, or gives you 3 points somewhere else, that could be useful. I've seen a couple people play this, I don't know if they were serious though. This one, the Iron Falcon Troubadour, this card is actually pretty good. So putting 2 armor on something in your hand lets you protect an engine card before you play it, and gives you some form of carryover if you play it at the end of a round. This card is pretty good, I use this sometimes. I've seen other people use this too. Now the Iron Falcon Infantry, if this has Barricade, it's a 4 for 4 engine, that gets a point every turn, which is good. But getting at the Barricade can be tricky, which is where the Troubadour comes in, and also if you play Northern Realms, you can boost this with the armor, which isn't too bad. The +2 and +2 armor on it's pretty useful. But then why wouldn't you use that on something else, right? And then here we have the new Bomb Heaver. Does 1 damage. If you have a bomb, deal 3. Said I would use this if in a bandit deck if I wanted to use bombs anyway. I wouldn't put bombs in for the purpose of using this. So in that case, it's not very useful to me. The Strays of Spoila. Now this one's interesting because there's not too many cards that let you move your own units. So we see Northern Realms players use their Siege Ladder guy, I'm not sure the exact name, where they can move their Vizgoda back to the raid show if you move it out, just because it has move and allied unit, lets them move their own units. So moving at your own units is actually pretty useful. There's a lot of all the factions have some way to move an enemy unit, but not all of them have ways to move their own units. So in a faction where you can't move your own unit and you want to, Strays of Spoila can actually make sense. And I've seen people use it. So the Sapper move enemies, or you move a unit's armor, has some uses, but Irish Shade, if you want to get a bunch of points for moving the armor, is better. And it's a 5 for 5, and usually you're going to want to remove armor on a combo or something, so this usually doesn't come up too much. Gimpy Gerwin, I'm not sure how people remember the days of Gimpy Gerwin wiping all the Kenwin Revenants out, 3 damage all of them. That was pretty good. Nowadays though, we don't really see Gimpy Gerwin. It's pretty sad, I like the Gimpy Gerwin. Voldemir von Everett, swapping his armor with power. I mean, I don't know. I've never seen anyone play this card. Gascon, boost between 0 and 11. People play this for the memes, I guess, sometimes. But I'm not a big fan of this card. Because you see this and you're like, okay, random number between 0 and 11. So what's the average, 6? We'll call it 6, 5 or 6. So say it's a 7 for 8 on average. That's not how I think about it. I think about it as 30% of the time, this is a 4 for 8 or lower. But that's just at that point I'm not gonna play it. Although by that logic, also 30% of the time is 8 or higher, then it's okay. Now, Cypher and Wily, banish you with power 3 less. This card's actually pretty good. I've seen people use this. You can take out stuff like the Flying Renadian, banish it. Also, you can take out an Drago Larva, although that doesn't feel as good, but this card is not bad. Now, the Free Company is the only card that really, other than the Wagon, synergizes with bandits. It just boosts all your bandits by 1, and if you have a lot of bandits, that's pretty useful. But you don't really want to have a lot of bandits, right? Because most of them aren't too useful. So, if there were more bandits that were good, this would be better. Ulrich von Everett. Order heal self cooldown 1. I've always wanted to use this card, and always thought it might be useful with some kind of self-wound Skellige deck or something like that. But then if you're playing Skellige, you really want that devotion for Herald, evolving card, And you want to get that 5th damage out in round 3. Also with the veteran guy. So, I don't know. People probably used them at some point. Of all of the bandits, I'd say Knickers probably gets used the most just because it's in the Lippy Skellige deck. You flip your deck in graveyard, you get Knickers back. So, I guess if we're going by this guy is played pretty frequently. That being said, in other decks, I don't really see Knickers being used. And Old Greed Immortal can't be changed, power can't be changed, so I know when this card first came out one time, I had it in my hand because I was just playing around with it, and someone tried to set the highest card in my hand to 1, and it was this guy, and it stayed at 7. And that's the most use I've ever gotten out of Old Greed Immortal. But people do use him. You can play him with like the Skellige Druid, damage something to the left by 1, boost itself by 2, or to the right by 1. And his power doesn't change, so that's good. You can do other stuff with him. You can draw him with Stregobor. He stays at 7, your opponent draws a 1 strength, but that's all very niche stuff. Now, the lady whose name I can't pronounce, some actually play this on me. People play this in Nilfgaard sometimes. I think it's kind of like, I'm not sure what kind of deck to call it, but they like play this, they steal your scenario, and then they create copies of your cards and activate your scenario. It's interesting. But outside of that, you can also, if people are playing a lot of Skellige and they're all using the Svalbard Totem, you can create the Totem, which is really strong. But the chance of it not hitting something is the reason people don't play this. If everyone used artifacts that were good, this would probably be more played. Carla Varese, Old Cleaver. So yeah, deal 1 damage, or deal damage equal number of cards in your hand. So this is very flexible and very useful early on. So back when the power level of cards was lower, people would be like, play their engine card and put Tactical Evolution on it for +4, or +5 rather. You're like, huh, okay, I played Cleaver, Carlo, and now it dies. I got a lot of value out of it. That's pretty good. But the reason I don't see him used, or I don't use him, even in Bandit decks, is a lot of the time you end up with like a round 2 or round 3 where you're down to like 4 cards. Maybe you played a long round 1 and then bleeding you or something, and now you, Carla, only does like 3 damage. That just isn't really worth it. Now, One-Eyed Betsy's also quite good, actually. So, 4 points, does 4 damage. If the unit has armor, damage it by 6 instead. The increased damage on armor is quite useful against things like Carrack Frigate or the Ancrete Longship if they're not boosted, because instead of doing 4 damage, does 6, it kills the 5 you need to, does the 5 you need to kill those units. And getting rid of those is quite useful. So this is actually quite useful. One-Eyed Betsy's nice. And then Gascon Iron Falcon. So going back to the Bronze Bandits, which is why we started there, he's going to create one of these and spawn it, right? He's going to create one of them and play it, rather. So what are you going to create? What's good here? So Straights Bala is useful. Gascon has go 1 in, what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1 in. So we've got a 33% chance of seeing a Straights Bala to move something. So if you want to move something and you feel like trying to randomly move it, Gascon can probably give you a chance at moving it, maybe. And if you're in Northern Realms, you can also get Cutthroat out of it. But so that's useful. Giving something in your hand the 2 armor is useful, like we said before. So these are probably the most useful ones. And then if you have something that can give armor, actually there's only 8 choices because Wagon's not actually a bandit. Sorry about that. You can create one of these guys, the infantry. If you have a way to give armor, that's pretty useful. So, and then this is worth what? 6 if the bleeding goes off, so Gascon comes to 10 for 10. So there's some choices, and maybe you want to get rid of something's armor. Maybe they have a dwarf guy who does no damage to himself, and then randomly to you if he has armor. So Gascon is very flexible, but it's not guaranteed in its flexibility. But I like playing Gascon. So now we take a look at the Bandit cards. What do they do well? Well, other than Knickers and One-Eyed Betsy, and very niched answers like Gimpy, if you know they have like they're playing a bunch of rats to eat them with Gurnikor, there's very little like guaranteed scenarios where you want to get these guys. So which bandits would you use in a deck, and what do they bring to that deck? So a couple of them bring bleeding, the Cutthroat and the Iron Falcon Juggler bring bleeding. You've used them in a vampire deck, right? So in a vampire deck, I actually would probably use maybe an Iron Falcon Knife Juggler or 2. if I needed 4 provision cards, but there's already a lot of low provision vampires. So what else do they bring you? They can protect your engines, mainly the Troubadour, and also the wagon can protect your engines, and that's actually quite valuable. So in decks that need engines and want them to stay alive and have powerful engines but can't protect them on their own, these can be put in and be pretty useful. I quite like the Iron Falcon infantry also, if you can give it the armor, because a 4/4 engine, there's not many of those, there's not very many of those left. Usually get bumped up to 5 provisions in the faction specific ones, or they have some kind of restriction added. So this is pretty useful, and your opponent feels really bad hitting it. Plus, if they do damage to it and take the armor off, it's usually 2 armor. That gets you some value too, if they take the armor off and it stops game boosting itself. So in a deck, we want to use infantry probably, Troubadour, then possibly wagon if we're going to be hard on the armor thing, and get other value from the armor elsewhere. And then Strays of Swallow we'd probably use too for the utility, right? So as far as the higher provision ones, Gascon we're going to use because we like Gascon. The flexibility is nice, even if it's not guaranteed. And then One-Eyed Betsy is very useful, we'll use One-Eyed Betsy. And then we'll take a look at some of the other ones, and none of these really stand out as being worth inclusion in our deck, except maybe Cyprian Wily, but as you'll see, we'll use something else instead of him for this scenario. And the other one consideration is Free Company. If we're only going to use 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 7 bandits total, maybe 7 or 8 bandits, because Gascon will make one. Sure, Free Company can hit like 4 bandits, be a 10 for 8, but we don't really want to have our bandits most of the time. Like, we don't want to have a lot of bandits played in the same round, because it usually means you're playing lower provision bandits here that aren't worth a lot of points right away. So Free Company, we tried it out, or at least I tried it out, and it didn't seem too useful for this deck. But that's an examination of our bandit cards, and let's take a look at what kind of deck we'll actually make with these. Alright, so looking at this deck, first off, right away I'm going to say this is not a strong ladder deck, or like a very strong deck in general, but we just want to make a deck with bandits. We'll try to make it as strong as we can without, I mean, we could just make, well, I did make like a shield wall deck, standard meta deck, and add like 4 bandit cards. I mean, you can do that. We want to try and use the bandits for their strengths here, and that's what we're going to do in this deck. So we're going to play Nilfgaard in this case, because honestly, probably Nilfgaard's weakest faction right now. It has the least to lose by substituting cards for bandits. That's arguable, but we want to play Nilfgaard because our special viewer here who wants this bandit deck, he likes Nilfgaard. That's the real reason we're playing Nilfgaard. And if we take a look at what we went up including, we'll include One-Eyed Betsy. Like we said, the removal is very nice. Gascon Iron Falcon. We're going to employ the wagons in this deck actually, along with the Iron Falcon Troubadours. I probably said this card's name wrong every time, sorry about that. And then the Iron Falcon infantries we're going to use, and we're going to use Strays of Swallow. So that's the bandits we're going to include. We're going to be using we're going to use 2, 4, 6, 7, 8 bandit cards, 2 wagons for supporting the bandits. I count those as basically bandits. So if we take a look at the actual deck here, let's start at the bronzes because we can take a look at the actual bandit cards we're using. So we're having Van Morlehelm Hunters for the locks and bleeding, very flexible, very useful. Magni Divisions, solid 4-point engine, or 4 provision engine we can use right at the beginning in a row. Strays of Swallow can pull it back out of a row that it gets moved into, or if an opponent plays, say, like a spying unit in its row, we can move it out and get another point, or we can move something else that gets moved into its row out, so we can actually get some more value from Strays of Swallow on this. We're also going to use the wagon, like we said, for the armor. If you just play the wagon, kind of like you play the Northern Realms guy with formation, and then armor up whenever you play afterwards, that's pretty useful. They might remove it, but who wants to remove a wagon? For real though, no one wants to remove a wagon. Doesn't seem very useful. And then if you do have the bandit, you can get the armor right away. So say you have your Iron Falcon infantry, they damage the armor up, which is pretty frequent. You can play wagon, put the 3 armor back on, and start boosting it again. The Troubadour, we said, we get armor and stuff in our hand, so other than the infantry, this is really useful for a lot of our cards we're playing here. And this is not the best Nilfgaard deck, I'm just going to say that right now also, but we can get some use out of this in this deck. The infantries can be our 1-point engines, like we said before, boost them with the wagon or Troubadour, well not boost, but give them the armor. Strays of Swallow for the movement. Considering we're using movement, we're going to try out using Elba Pikemen, so we can get points every turn, use a couple more engines, try and get something going here, and we can move stuff into the row to take damage, we can move stuff that has armor out of the row, We can move this back to the melee row if they move it. A lot of times they'll move, if you say play Magni Division and then play the pikeman, the melee row, they'll move the pikeman out of the melee row back into the row with the Magni Division. Then you'd be losing a lot of value on both cards, but then you can use the Spala, Strays of Spala, move them back into the melee row. And usually people don't have 2 movements in their hand, not even always in their deck. We're going to be using Vanamar, so we're going to be playing Imposter here. So Vanamar, we lock something, create a copy, Vanamar kills the thing we locked, very useful. We also kill stuff we locked with the Morlehelm Hunter. Very useful here. We're going to use Bribery because it's Bribery and our deck's not too strong, so hopefully we can take good cards from our opponent and actually win the game. We've got Fion von Gerl here. We're going to have our Defender. Pretty normal thing, we're going to defend our powerful cards we don't want interrupted. And a lot of our stuff in this deck's row locked. So that's one of the things we're thinking about when we're trying to take advantage of the strengths bandits can bring us. A lot of the thing we're going to rely on here is either engines, which we don't have very strong ones in our faction, that we can protect, which was what the Wagon and the Iron Falcon and Troubadour are doing, or we're going to be able to protect our engines. Well, that's part of the other one. We're going to protect our engines, so protect our high provision engines, and the other strength we have is the Strays of Spala's movement. So we're using more row-locked cards, so we can take advantage of that better. And as we get into our high provision cards, the Strays of Spala can save us from a lot of movement abilities. Because a lot of time people just move your card like your Damien or your Kair, and they'll be like, okay, it's moved, I don't have to deal with this anymore. But if you have Strays of Spala, you can move back out. There's other ways to do that, true, but we're just using Strays of Spala to try and take advantage of the strength of the bandits for what they have. Then we have our Kair. Kair gets boosted with our enemy, takes a boost. This is one of the strongest cards. If you can protect this against certain things, like if you're playing the Symbiosis type Harmony, or not Harmony, the Symbiosis type Squaretail decks, where they just boost their Hamadryads, they play Herald Gord for boosted like 10, they play their Shaping Nature. If Kair lives, if you can protect it in like round 3 or something, and they can't kill it, you will win the game because they can't kill it. However, most of the time they'll kill it. But being able to move it out of the ranged row, because a lot of time they'll just move it right away. They'll like, you play your Defender, what they'll usually do is we play our Defender, they'll heat wave the Defender because they don't have another way to get rid of it, and you'll play Kair. If you can protect Kair, say having armor on it from the Troubadour, or some other way, or set up a wagon ahead of time, put armor on it, they can damage it by 5, they might have Becker's Rock Slide, in which case it will die, but if they don't have the Rock Slide, and they can do like, they'll probably play like 2 Nature's Rebukes on it, right? That will kill it. But if you wait till round 3, they might have already played a Nature's Rebuke, they might play their second one, they might have used their Forest Protector for their 3rd Nature's Rebuke they're always going to play. So if you can protect K here, this is one of our win conditions. Leaving us alive will let us beat a lot of the meta decks right now. And then we have Invocation. Obviously again, fantastic card, we'll take their card. Thank you very much. So Vincent van Morlehelm will use him, destroy an enemy with status, goes very well with our leader ability, the Imposter. We can lock something, create a copy. Vincent can kill the thing we locked if we need to get rid of it. Kind of like how Vanamar works. It's very useful. We can also just take out defenders with Vincent. It was probably one of his greatest strengths, is they play the defender and you just kill it if you have Vincent. It's really good versus the defender with a shield that normally is very annoying to get rid of. You might have to heat wave that. We don't want to heat wave that. So we'll use Vincent, very useful. My Betsy we talked about earlier, she can take out engines, she does 4 damage, she can get rid of something, she can get rid of things that are 4 points with an armor, like Concrete Longship and the Carrack Frigate, if they didn't boost it already, which they probably did, but we can get rid of stuff with this, it's very useful. And we're not using Tourney Joust, the 4 provision removal card that removes a shield, does 4 damage. We're going to try and use One-Eyed Betsy instead, try and make use of the bandits as best as possible. Gascon Iron Falcon, like we talked about before, is very flexible, has a lot of uses for us here. You're not always guaranteed to get what you want, but there'll probably be something you can use, and he's usually like, even if you play, say, a Bomb Heaver or something, or a Sapper, the worst choice is, if you don't have one of the conditional ones met, you can use these and it'll be 9 points for 10 provisions. It's not great, but he won't fail you terribly like normal Gascon might. We're going to use Heat Wave. We've tried playing without Heat Wave. If you played a Devotion deck and you can't use Heat Wave, you know that playing without Heat Waves feels really bad in the current state of the game, especially if you want to remove a scenario. Then we use Damien. Damien obviously is very strong. Re-enabling your leader is really good. And especially for us, because if we can re-enable our leader, and say we have Vincent and Vanamar in our hand, we can lock something. Say their Hamadryad's really big. We can lock the Hamadryad, it won't get any bigger. We'll get our own Hamadryad, which isn't that great, but 6 points. And then we can kill it with Vanamar. And then we can re-enable our leader, lock something else, kill it with Vincent if we need to. And if they ever play an old Spear Tip, you can get a 14-point swing by locking it and creating a copy. And then you can kill their Spear Tip for -12 or something like that with Vanamar. It's ridiculous if they do that. Especially if they end up playing like, well, it doesn't work versus Goliath because you're locking it, but it has some pretty good uses. And then we're going to play Niromancy because we really need to be able to set stuff up here. So we want to be able to have Kayer, we want to be able to have Damien. It feels really bad if your Damien's in your deck. We're not using any other tutors or thinning, so we're just going to go with a Niromancy and try and make sure we get the cards we want. Then we're going to use Collar, because we can lock something with it, and then in an earlier round, if they're causing problems, say they Tactical Advantage their Carrack Frigate, and you want to just Collar it and Vanamar it, you can do that. You can Collar it and get rid of it, stop their things from working. It's a great stratagem, actually, one of my favorites. And I think that does it for the deck, so let's see how this actually performs. Alright, so our recording actually failed a little bit there. We'll just pick up from here. We just played a Magni division, set up a wagon, he played his dwarf, he played his volunteers out of his deck. So we're just going to go into our Iron Falcon infantry here, give some armor with the wagon. They'll probably be really confused, and let's see where we go from here. So having the Iron Falcon infantry here, yeah, he just clicked on it. He's like, "What are you doing, man?" Like, alright, we're just using the deck. Our viewers wanted us to use this. He's so confused. But it's nice here. We've got our 2 engines going, getting a point every turn. It's pretty nice. We really want to... He's going to be using this scenario, and we really want to force that out in round 2, so we need to win this first round. Otherwise, we're going to be in a lot of trouble, and in this case, Kayer's going to be less useful than normal, unless we can get him out before the Isengrim. Let's see what he goes into now that he sees... Well, he probably doesn't know what we're playing. Doesn't damage 2 of our guys by 2. If we can take 2 without this armor, that'd be nice, and we do actually. That's very useful. So in this case, we want to save our Niromancy, we want to save our Kayer to push round 2. Maybe get out before we place Isengrim. Gascon here is not going to be too useful. Strace isn't going to be very useful right now. I wasn't kind of expecting him to move this. It's more likely this guy will be using the Dragoon than average Squirtle deck. So in this case, I think we're just going to play the Van Moorlem Hunter for its bleeding.
The Van Moorlems detest intruders.
And we'll see what our opponent does. Ragan gave us a lot of good value here so far. So what's he going to damage? He's going to damage our... Okay, so he damages his Dolable Fauna Archer there to Bowman to damage our guy. Here was the armor, we're not getting a boost anymore. Let's see what we want to play. Obviously we don't want to commit too hard here. Although it never really feels too bad playing Gascon, so let's go with Gascon. See if the hero of our deck can carry the round for us. So we could get 2 bleeding, it's 5 points, it's whatever. We can get another infantry. Although if we could armor our infantry, that'd be much better, and we can't in this case. So it looks like Highwayman's our best value in this case. It's going to do 1 damage. We could also go for the bleeding, it's worth the same amount, but the Highwayman has an armor in case he plays another bomber, so we'll go with that.
You might have got away had you not been hauling so damn much.
Pretty unlikely that there's a scenario where he plays another bomber here, but in case he does, this is better than the Cutthroat. And he's going to go for the Dryad Ranger. We're going to poison on this guy in the back. It's no big deal.
Leave while you still stand.
So at this point we want to save most of these cards, right? So we're going to have to try and force him out. The best way to force him out is to just take out this guy with Collar. We don't want to commit too much, even if we are trying to get out here. So we could go for a Niromancy, so we get it off twice. We could go for some kind of setup. But I think you'll need more tempo than just playing like a Troubadour here. So what would be the best scenario here? I think we might just Oneiromancy into a wagon. There's our wagon, there it is. Get the wagon out, put the armor on this guy with the seals, get a bandit, get another engine going, and we'll see if that's enough. We'll probably take this out with a poison, and we'll go down to 25. Alright, so yeah, that was enough to get him out. The part of this engine got him out. The power of the bandits and the wagons. So now in round 2, we really need to force out his scenario, because we're not going to beat him in our short round. So we need to force out the scenario, and we want to draw our heat wave. That way we can use our Oneiromancy's Echo for something else. Alright, these aren't the greatest draws in the world. I think he will use a move card if we play K here, so I think I want to keep Strays. We don't really want to play Troubadour or Magni. I think get rid of Magni first, because this could armor something useful. And I think we'll get rid of him now. Hopefully got something better. Drew's brother. Alright. We're going first here though. So in this case, we could set up the armor on our K. Now we can't just kill it with a Nature's Rebuke. We are unfortunately missing our defender here, and our Damien and our Heatwave and our Barbary. So we'll take a look at what he does. Alright, so that's not too crazy. I think we play K here. I think he's gonna rebuke it, right? And then if he rebukes it, it'll live because we gave it through armor from Troubadour. If he does hit it with the rebuke, we'll play our defender out of our deck. He moves it, we have Strays of Spala, we move it back. If he heat waves it, that's fine, he won't heat wave something later on. Basically, if he removes this, we will not commit super hard to this round. Alright, so that tells me he has the heat wave, he's going to heat wave it later, right? Otherwise he would have tried to get rid of it, or given the armor to avoid giving us a boost. So he thinks he can kill this. If he thinks he can kill it, it means we need to defend it, so we'll pull out our defender now. Get this guy out.
That's order!
This is a scary part. Well, there will be a scary part when these are both 7 and we'll have 20 in a row, but he probably doesn't have Igni. Never know though. So this is going to be for his Heat Wave probably, right? Oh, he's going to go for the move. Good thing for us is we got our Strays of Spala, we just move that right back, and the fact that he Oneiromancied for his move tells us he doesn't have another one. So we're trying to Strays of Spala right away, get that back, and let's see what he does now. This is the part where he could get Ignied. But at this point he might be forced to Heat Wave this and let this live because it's unlikely he has enough poisons. Okay, so at this point, we're up a bit. We want to remove the elves, the token elves, right? So we don't take as much damage from Belandrisil, however you pronounce her name. Which he probably has, and he has 2 elves to activate this. One is probably Isengrim, but we'll get K-Year boost from that. And we don't have Damien. We only have for nothing we want to take. We want to use this to remove an elf. But I think I'd rather use Vincent now and take this guy out with his Vitality. It's worth a good amount of points. Even if we lose 1 point on K-Year because of this. Our opponent still has their 3 tokens though. We don't have a way to kill the thing we lock. So yeah, here's Vernacel, however you say her name. So we create some more tokens. This is going to start getting boosted now. We'll keep getting boosted for it as well. Now, obviously, we could take Vernacel, which would be worth a good amount of points in round 3 to us. I think that's what we're going to do. And let's see what he does here. We always have the option of our Imposter if there's a high value card he's going to play. We're going to go for Poison on Forest Whisperer. Now, the thing is though, if he had a second poison, he probably would have just poisoned our gear earlier when we first played it. So I don't think he has a second poison. The question then is, do we play our one-eyed Betsy and shorten round 3? In the short round, if we're going to draw Verniacell, which is good, we're going to have access to Damien, hopefully. If we have these two, we have a good chance of winning the short round 3, especially if we get Vanamar. So I think here, I think it's worth forcing him to play more now. Then we'll kill this, because all the elf boost just boosts K here. And let's see what he does. The value on the Feign Death's Waylay is 0 at this point. Oh, he did have another poison, okay. So, he did have a second poison. I figured he would have played this earlier, but it's not too big a deal. We did force him to use his scenario round 2, which was our goal, and we got out some good cards too. He does have all 3 of his leader charges, which is problematic, but we really need our Damien here to have a good chance. We got Vanamar. This is not looking too hot, honestly. But we'll take a look and see what we can do. We can't win a game here. See what our opponent has. Okay, so we're just gonna start with Verniacell. He's gonna play out his charges probably. Of course, spawn our 2 Elven Deadeyes. Taking this from round 2 to round 3, we took this because we wanted to have a strong tempo play in this round in case we didn't get our Damien. Even if it wasn't the highest thing we could have taken. So let's ride Enchantress. It's not too strong.
The forest holds many secrets.
So we could lock and destroy this. It denies him 7 points plus potentially a Harmony. I don't think he has any more Harmonies. So we deny 7 here with Vanamar killing it. We get a 3 though, which isn't very good. But if he plays something else big, we need a Heatwave target anyway, right? He still has his Eyes of Him. That'll boost us by 1. I think this is the best play right now. So we lock this, and then we kill it. And let's see what he does. He probably has what he needs to win here, but it's worth trying here. He could have something bad, like a Dragoon or something, for a move. Might think we have the Damien and be saving a move card. Alright, so if that's going to destroy something, and it looks like will vanish. Well, we'll see. We'll see it will vanish. And here he's probably going to take the game. But as you can see, we tried using the bandits here. And they did pretty well for us, but they weren't enough to carry the game in the end.
You are only human.
I think if we had a Damien here, we would have won this round. But it's alright. It was a pretty close game, actually. And we got done what we tried to do with the bandits. It just wasn't quite enough in the 3rd round. Alright, so let's see what we're going up against in this game with our bandit deck. We're going up against Lined Pockets. Alright, haven't played against this in a while. So in this case, I don't think the 2 locks might actually be useful. And we are going 2nd, which is nice. We have a little bit of carryover we can set up with our Troubadours. I don't think we need the... We're going to go for the locks and these guys. I think we get rid of Magni Division here. We're going to try and show off the bandits. We'll use the bandits some more. And then we'll get rid of this Stratus Spala. So we'll try and use the bandits here and make use of them to the best of our abilities. Find out what our opponent's using. Nilfgaardian Justice. Obviously he's using plenty of crimes, so it's unlikely our stuff will live. Probably get poisoned. He has some removal cards. All but Pikemen here. Won't do too much. Let's just set up some armor with our Troubadours. Some Iron Goblin infantry. We don't have to play them this round. We don't have to commit too much here. We'll see what he does. Looks like he's going for 2 of his Bare Knuckle Brawlers. So at this point, I think it's probably time to set up a Pikeman. He'll probably remove this. He's gonna have plenty of removal cards. Unfortunately, we hit the shield, but oh well. Ideally, we would have put this in the back row, so in case he stole this with his Philippa, it wouldn't hit us back. Alright, so this is going to be one of those decks that really relies on 2 long rounds. So the best way to take advantage of this, knowing this, is if we can force him to this round longer. There's no way our K here lives here. So that's pretty unfortunate. We can try and protect him with the defender in round 3. This is our win condition for this game. Otherwise, I don't think we can actually take out the amount of points he's going to provide. So in that case, we'll just try and set up for the best possible long round 3 we can. So we'll get another Iron Falcon infantry with the armor. And we'll see what happens here. We're just going to try and set up for the best long round 3 possible. So this is going to die now. He's going to miss a point. Get some more intimidates. Still have points here. So I want to keep this and this, the Kair, the Damien, and the 2 infantries for round 3. The bribery is interesting. We need 15 points. So really we just want to go last in round 3. We don't care if we have to go down to 4 cards if he passes. So knowing that, we're just going to play slow and probably play a Van Morlehem Hunter for the 2 bleeding.
The Van Morlehems detest.
We might lock something here. But if he just passes here, knowing how many points we're down, the 2 might get us over, have a better chance of getting us to the points we need to win. I imagine he'll keep playing though, having committed his portal and his Cleaver's Muscle, or what's it called, Novigradian Justice. So there's a Saul committing more points here.
I admire the beautiful. What can I say?
At this point, we can't win this round without committing K here. Or Damien, which will be removed. So we're just going to let him have it. And try and hope we can set up the best. Oh, round 3 is good enough to take out what he's going to play. This is the point when another Iron Falcon Troubadour would be nice. It was where I usually play it in like my other decks where I use it, not just like a. Well, that's the only bandit in my deck. Sometimes this is a good scenario to play it. They'll pass on round 2, you play it, get a little bit of carryover value. It's pretty nice actually. So here, movement we would be useful. I don't think he's going to push too hard here. The wagon gives armor, but we already have our stuff with armor. So I think we got rid of the wagon here. We have Gascon and Strays. The only thing I'd really want to move are defenders up against Syndicate, and the defender's going to spawn 2 guys. So we can bleed 1 and move the other, but also Gascon can get rid of it, so we'll get rid of the Strays. The Gascon can create either, it can create the guy who does 1 damage and 3 to armor, like get rid of it. The Cutthroat does 2 bleeding if he plays the defender first. We can play the Knife Juggler, which does 2 bleeding, 2 things. It'll get at least 1 of the defenders. So Gascon can actually take out the defenders here. We can rely on him and not need the Strays to move something. We do have our Heat Wave, so let's see what he goes for. I'm guessing it's going to be the double cut of Blackies at some point in this round if he's trying to push. Because he already committed a good amount of provisions and good cards. So here's the defender, so we're going to go with Gascon here to get rid of this. And we'll hopefully land on the Knife Juggler and get bleeding 2 on both of the defenders. If not, Gascon will almost certainly take out. We actually don't even need to. So in this case, actually, we're just gonna drop the Aristocrat, right, and just get this bleeding so it dies.
Beaters, forward! Let the hunt begin.
And then Gascon can maybe be useful another time, more value. This is not 100% guarantee you can kill this, it's just almost certain. I'll take this certainty. So what is he trying to protect?
Listen, I just work here.
Interesting. So we might actually need Gascon for the movement here. I don't want to commit it yet. So he's just going to keep boosting this, right?
Huh?
So I think the best play is to go for Gascon, and we'll try and take it out.
Follow your Congratulations, lads!
This is what we're looking
Just
for.
look at me!
1 damage, 3 has armor. We'll kill
The
this
mist's gonna pass
scarab.
me those lovely earrings.
Thank you,
Or do I
Gaston,
tear
getting
them
through
off
his defender for
myself?
us. You're a hero. Don't worry, we'll make you premium after this game. You've earned it. If we win. As we'll still have to see what he set up. Now we're ahead in points. So whatever he's going for, we can interact with it now. Obviously, we have no access to our defender, so Kair and Damien are very vulnerable. And them dying is really bad. So we'll see what happens here. He's going to give himself a coin. He's going to play his Zavala. Alright, Zavala, very strong.
No prisoners! No prisoners!
So Heatwave gets rid of 11. That brings him to 15. This gives us plus 5, puts us at 16. If we need to Heatwave next round, we will. It doesn't seem like a deck that's going to be running the scenario, so we don't have to save the Heatwave for the scenario anymore. Also, Kair's looking like he's not going to find too much value here until he spends coins on boosts. And it looks like he might have some more Intimidates he's saving. So we're going to take 3 damage. We can get 3 coins, not a big deal. Alright, I think it's time we start dropping one of these Iron Falcon infantries at least. We need a second entry going here, in case he keeps pushing further. That 3 damage would have been really bad for us. Well, it would have been really bad. So he's going to do 4 here, that's fine. Actually 6 is he saw Mages. That's not too big a deal. We'll just drop the other one. This looks like it's going to be the long round of the game. And hopefully we can get rid of all his removal, and if we need to, we can drop Kair and absorb all the points he's going to spend from his fee. This is his only fee card right now. Of course, he probably also has a Philippa somewhere. We can play around that though. If he steals our Kair, we can just bribery and put something in the back. So yeah, there's the Philippa. So if he steals that,
You'll suffer the
we're gonna play
consequences
Kair
of your
now.
foolishness.
We'll play K here, and then we could create we could lock his Frightener and create a Frightener of our own. We'll get +2 here. That's not enough to take the round, so we'll just pass. We'll see what he does about this. Alright, so he's just gonna pass here. We need some points. So heat waving gives us what? -11. He goes to 25. We get +1, 2. It's not quite enough, so we're gonna have to use our leader here. We're gonna use our leader. We're getting +11 from it. This is 33, so we can bribery whatever we want out of our deck and save our heat wave. So let's take Herald. Unfortunately, it's going to come on the other row right now, but we should be fine. And there we go, we take that round. We could take any of his cards, I just felt like taking Herald. So obviously here, our hand's alright actually. I don't think I want the Manny division. I do want several of these cards still. So we definitely do not want this. That's a good one. Hopefully we can get this off. We want our defender now. So hopefully Strays can give us an Iromancy, and that's exactly what it does. That's perfect. So how do we start this off? We're going to go with an Iromancy right into our defender. If he answers it, he answers it. Otherwise we'll just go into Damien next.
Victory is on the wind.
We should be able to probably get this off here. Looks like we're fine. So we're going to play Damien. He won't be able to remove this right away. So we'll get Damien off. We'll have our Vincent combo with our Imposter. Should be able to take a game like that. Take this game at least. Should be enough points. And then we have our one-eyed Betsy for some removal if we need it. And we have a Heat Wave for whatever he plays that's big. So let's go, opponent. We need you to play a card so we can win a game with our lovely deck here. Gascon, our hero. Iron Falcon, not normal Gascon. So now, our opponent's going to play something. This looks like it's going to be his. Oh, more at least. He's going to pay the tribute and kill our unit here. But it's too late.
It turns my guts more than a filthy mate.
Our defender did its job. We get our reset off here. Perfect. I think we're going to save our Vincent and lock hopefully something bigger than hit than these guys. We'll just go for One-Eyed Betsy here. Take this out. Now whatever he plays, we have a lock ready and a destroy, and then we can banish something. So as long as he plays his points into doesn't spread them out across too many bodies, will be good. If he plays like Congregate and summons a bunch of tokens, that would be not good. Alright, that's actually even worse. So now we have to do something about... we have to banish or lock this guy, his totem, or his token. Between banishing or locking the token, I think I would rather... it doesn't really make a difference here, so I think we'll just go with the lock. We can get a better point value off of something bigger though, so I think the banish is the call here. This feels really bad though. And let's see what he does. Hopefully he actually plays something that's pretty big. So playing a crime from our deck, this is probably gonna make us lose the game here. Yeah, he's got all his coins saved up, he's gonna pay some fees with them. Not great, obviously. So we're just gonna have to lock this, create a 4-point version, play Vincent, kill it, and hopefully he has something that's worth less than 7. Looks like it's definitely not less than 7, so once again, our bandits are unable to win the game. It's pretty unfortunate. Alright, so we'll try one more game here with our bandit deck. Hopefully we can get a win. As you can see, it's not the strongest deck. We're both playing Nilfgaard without the scenario and the aristocrats, and we're also playing bandits, so I feel like the odds are a little stacked against us, but we'll try it. There's a lot of things you can do to win games. Using the strongest deck isn't always the best way, although it certainly helps. So what are we going up against here?
Ho ho, I sense trouble.
Alright, so he's going to be spawning a bunch of dudes. So we have several targets already in mind. We can... our leader ability will be very good on the 12 strength guy he's going to play, so hopefully we can save it for that. Looks like in our hand, movement's not going to be too important here, so I think we can lose the strays because there's nothing in our hand. Well, first we lose the Magni Division, and we don't need 2 Morlem Hunters. Then I think, yeah, we drop the strays next. And now we're going first. Question is, do we just play the standard Magni Division, or do we set up a wagon? And the answer is definitely play Magni Division. Now, normally I'd play this in the melee row, so if I need to lock something with the Morlem Hunter, I could play it in the ranged row and lock something without losing the points in our Magni Division. But we also want to play the Elbow Pikeman in this case, so we'll go for the ranged row because it's more likely. I think it's more likely he kills this than it is that he plays something we want to lock. Then obviously we can set up a wagon at some point to put the armor on our Iron Falcon infantry. Alright, so whenever he spawns units, he's going to get a coin. Interesting. Now, I do actually want to lock that. But looks like we're going to be unable to. So this is row locked. We could go for a Gascon here. This isn't too bad of an ability though, so I'm not overly concerned. We'll just go for a wagon and set our own thing up. And I think this is a fine use of our collar. There's going to be other ways to deal with stuff in our hand. The question is, what does he want to... yeah, so here comes the removal. We're going to lose our Magni Division, but at least our wagon can get our Iron Falcon infantry going here. You know, the real power cards of our deck. Some armor on that, start boosting it. Now, let's see what our opponent does here. I imagine they'll start setting their own stuff up. Okay, yeah, so he's going to transform this into a cut-up lackey. Really nice that we don't have to deal with a double cut-up lackey in this case.
Discipline. Like to see us
And since he removed our guy in the back row, I think I'm just going to lock this one, not deal with it,
Captured this.
and have our Iron Falcon infantry giving us some points. So at this point, we've played 4 provisions for our wagon, 4 for our infantry, and we've gotten 10 points out of them. So I think this is pretty worth it. Hopefully this goes to the melee row so we can start playing our pikemen. Alright, it does. So he's got 5. Bribery could give us this 5 damage spell, but I think I want to save my bribery and just go for the pikemen. Sorry for that. And we'll start getting little bits of damage in here with our pikemen. I'd say it's pretty likely this dies at this point, or he starts taking off the armor on this. But so far we're very happy with this round. He committed his senior, he's committed a couple of these cards now, engine cards. That's not too big a deal for him, they're only like 5 engine cards.
copies.
So in this case, I think the best play, deciding he's pushing us here, right? So we definitely need some kind of bigger plays. I think we either go for Gascon or Bribery. Gascon can move this, and it might convince him to leave. And Bribery keeps something really good. I think we'll go for Gascon though. Just in the spirit of being the Bandit
To win it
deck.
all, you've got to give it all.
Bleeding or damage to armor. Keep something in armor. The bleeding's worth the most here, so we'll go for the Knife Juggler. As long as it doesn't land on this guy, we'll be good.
With whimsy.
So we have a good amount of point differential set up here. You'll have to play something pretty decent at least to stay in here, if he wants to. And let's take a look at what he's going to do here. Probably nothing too crazy. I imagine we're pretty close to getting him to pass. I think he wants us to commit something better. Okay, so what's this gonna do? This fee's really annoying here. He's gonna get more value than normal from transforming this.
Remove his cowl, send his ears.
So that's not great.
By denying penance, you confirm your guilt.
So I think here our bandits are not doing so hot. This one armor can also block a damage from our pikemen. And this isn't looking great. We need something good here. So what do we play? He's not boosting, he's transforming, so okay here doesn't save us very much here. We could remove it. We won't get any horde abilities. We won't spawn any copies. Blocking might be an ideal thing to do with our leader here. So I think we're going... So this is obviously not a bad thing here. I think we'll go for the bribery in this case. Let's see what we get. This is pretty nice. I'll just
I
play
have
this
yet
review.
another dream about space.
Yes, you. Have
Sometimes you gotta play the bribery, guys, in order to win. So we got a good point play there. Thinking about what we should have done, what else we have in our deck, we have the Oneiromancy still. I think if we keep playing this round, we might be forced into using our leader ability, so we might go for Vanamar.
You shall be renounced by kin, condemned
Let's take
by
a
your
look. So
children.
excommunication. What's he gonna get? His advantage is 1. It's fine. Be nice if he played that 12. Okay, so he's gonna go for Sacred Flame here. That's a pretty good target for Heat Wave, actually.
You are worthy neither of
We can
mercy nor
pass.
forgiveness.
Get out of the round, that'd be best. So if he starts, he's gonna have to use some fees here, right? If he wants to push us harder. So he has no like end of turn points. He's gonna lose 2.
Yes, you. Have you made your offering?
He's got his horde ability. So I think here we might have to say he's gotten us. We get 2 points a turn, right? Is there anything that Oneiromancy can get us that'd be great here? We can always Heat Wave the Fallen Knight also. Because the only thing else we want to Heat Wave is Sacred Flame, right? We saw his Fire Sworns, so that's worth what, 6? These aren't Fire Sworns, so 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. definitely better to Heat Wave the Fallen Knight. Like, there's not going to be much else for us to Heat Wave, right? Because the 12 Strength guy, which is the other biggest thing he's going to play, or another Fallen Knight. You can remove one with this. So there comes Dai's Array. I have no idea how to pronounce that, by the way. So he takes the armor off. Sacred Flame and he gets that boost.
Cowl, then his ears.
K-Year would have been really nice there. Having K-Year before this. But I wanted to save it for round 3. So I think we'll let him have this uneven. Obviously not ideal, but he's used up his Congregate charges. And we still have our charge. Or we don't have charges, we have our lock still. So he's taking a card off of us for using all of his leader charges. I think I'm okay with that. Now he's going to have his Dai's Array back, and I think we might see us. We didn't play our Niromancy, so we probably won't see the Squirrel right away. And it's a pass. Sometimes you see that.
By denying penance, you confirm your guilt.
And we'll take a look at this next round. So I imagine he wants a long round 3 where he needs more Fallen Knights. He never played the guy who creates a copy of one in his hand, right? If he does go for Fallen Knights, we have K here. We have him move back. We don't need K here. We can just drop Strays for the round. I think this is exactly the type of hand I want here. It's very likely that K here dies if we play him without armor. We might have to risk it or play our Niromancy into our defender. It's a pretty normal thing to do. Then we'll have it for round 3. If he just passes, we'll Niromancy into our Trapdower to get 2 armor on our K here, so it survives a 5 damage spell. Since we have the Niromancy back. Let's see what our opponent does, and we'll decide what we want to do from there. He's just gonna pass. Fine. We go Niromancy, play our Iron Falcon Troubadour. Give our K here a couple armor points. Hopefully he survives round 3 now. Obviously having double last say is going to be really, him having it's going to be really bad for us. We do want to keep a Strays. The thing is he could use a movement. I don't think he's going to use any move cards, so I don't think the Strays gives us value here. So what else is there we would rather have? Definitely any of these. We really want our Damien. So I think we'll lose Strays and hope for Damien here. Okay, that's not bad. We can't have our Defender and Damien. So the question is, do we play K here? With his armor, he should be fine. He'll survive the first card most likely. The question is, does this guy play Philippa? He plays Philippa and he steals our K here. We can just block it and get a copy back, so it's not a big deal for us if he steals it. So I think our goal here is to bait him into stealing this by waiting till he has coins to play it. So we'll just start with a Magni Division. At some point we'll have to stop getting points from this when we play our Venomar, but that's not a big deal. We really just want to get him to use his Philippa coins to steal our K-Year so that we can get it back after locking his. The other thing is if he steals this, we'll probably just waste our lock on this. Well, actually we probably won't. He'll probably just kill us with something. I imagine he's got another one of these, the paydays coming up. I guess it was Defender still his Defender, which there's not much we can do about at this point. Pretty unfortunate. We'll probably have the Vincent, if he plays it, we'll have the Vincent one, and then use One-Eyed Betsy on the other. Alright, so that's not terrible. This will have Veil and we can just kill it with Vincent.
Radovid betrayed the order.
Oh.
Then let it dry.
He didn't have a Bronze Fire Sword. Alright, that feels good. Alright, so we have a chance here. What are we gonna do? K-Year has no... I think we go for... interesting. So he doesn't have a Bronze Fire Sworn. I think we go K here into Damien. Try and get him to get rid of this. Like, try and make him try really hard to remove our K-Year so we can play Damien more safely. I think that's the best play. It's really good he didn't have a Fallen Knight here. Alright, so he has no Bronze Fire Sworns of any kind, right? and if he's using a dice array deck, so if we can just remove as many things as possible, we should be fine. He probably has the spawn token cards still. Interesting. It should be pretty good for us. The problem is if he doesn't play tall cards, we don't get much value out of Invocation. Let's see what we got here. Alright, so this is something we could get rid of.
Humanity will perish while the few survivors will be like animals.
So, create a copy of that. Is that good? He's not going to use the fee because it gives us points. We could go into Damien and force him to kill Kair or Damien now. I think that's the best choice, is we just go into Damien, or we go to our Defender, right? Because he's not going to put his dice array back into his deck. So the Defender would be really strong. The question is, do we want Defender or Damien? There's not going to be so many big things for us to lock. I don't think the lock's worth very much here. So I think I'd rather have the Defender and just set this up so we can't get rid of our Kair.
Let their blood break their bones and spirit!
I think this is the better choice, because if he ever uses this fee we get points, uses his dice array we get points, and now he's going to have to deal with this. He might have poisons or something, get rid of it, whatever. If he has them, he has them. But we'll see. He's going to play Devotion with this guy, so he's not going to have a Heat Wave or Rebecca's Rock Slide or anything. The only movement card you could have is a Hammond. We don't think he's going to play a Hammond, so I think we're fine here. I don't think he can get rid of this. So he's going to summon some Zealots.
Yes, you!
We get
Have
a
you
point
made
for
your
that.
offering?
That's fine. So I think we're going to end up Vanamaring and locking this at some point. But right now I just want to play my one-eyed Betsy. Maybe take out one of these Firesworn guys. And we'll see how this goes. Our opponent here is a pretty strong position though still. He is up by 2 cards. But our bandits will come through in the end. I have faith in them. I have faith in the bandits. Mostly I have faith in Kair, but the bandits are helping out. That's the important thing. Okay, so here we have Vanamar and Vincent. We have to use one of these guys. So the tokens all have doomed, so we can always Vincent a token. So I'd rather lock the Jack Ace and take it out. Here's the thing though, we also have Yennefer's Invocation still. But I think here we want to lock. We're going to stop getting points on our Magni division. But we're just relying on Kair at this point anyway, so we're just going to lock this guy and create a 6, which leads to an 8. Then we'll just go for Vanamar and kill it.
Tell me what you've got.
And let's see if we can actually win this game here. This guy's, his dice array is not going to do anything for him, so he'll do 3 damage to us, like 3 damage, fine. And he can get the death blow, we'll get boosted too. It's possible he's one of those Geralt Yrden users. There's a lot of those nowadays. Okay, so I think here, there's no way we're going to hit Vincent on anything that's not a doomed token, right? So we just go for the doomed token. Feels bad.
All gentlemen have their vices.
So how is he going to kill our K here? He's used his Heat Wave, so he doesn't actually use Devotion. So there might be a Rock Slide or something in here. Or a movement. Let's see. Hopefully he just plays that 12 strength guy. Okay, so he's going to damage this. He's still alive. And then we just take away this guy with Invocation. And hopefully, we know he has a dice array. So if he kills our guy and plays it, we still win, I think. Because we removed so much of his stuff. Alright, so then we get Kair's gonna boost when he boosts. And I think we might have this. We got this. The bandits managed to win a game. Excellent work, everyone. I'm proud of you. Especially you, Kair. You're a bandit in this video. GG that guy, he probably feels really bad. So how good is this deck? We're going to be using a rating system that the viewer who requested this deck told us to use, and we'll take a look at how good it is. I have no idea why we're using this system though. So as far as control goes, An 8 out of 10. We actually have a lot of control tools in this deck. We have a couple locks, we have our leader ability, we have some removal with One-Eyed Betsy, we have Heat Wave, we have Yennefer's Invocation. Nilfgaard in general has a lot of control tools, and we're using a good number of them in this deck. So as far as control goes, it's actually pretty good at that. It's not anywhere near like a 10 out of 10 like a Hyper Control Blaze of Glory Skellige type deck, but it's pretty okay. As far as Point Slam goes, our strongest Point Slam play is playing Gascon, and then playing a Bandit, and that's not good. So as far as Point Slam and tempo plays go, we're very lacking. We do some engine cards. We have a few. We get some points from our engines. Really, the engines are carried by K here, and you can almost always count on K here to get killed. So engines are alright. I give it like a 4 out of 10, maybe a 5 if they don't kill K here, but it's nothing too great or too special in any of these categories, except maybe control. Now we also were supposed to look at how it performs in different length rounds. So as far as the short round goes, we don't really have tempo plays. The short round is carried mostly by the leader ability potential, along with Vanamar or Vincent to kill the thing we lock. If we didn't have the Imposter in those cards, it would go down to like a 2, because we really don't have big point plays. As far as the longer round goes, I'd say we're better in a longer round, maybe like a 6 out of 10. K here can carry a longer round if you can protect it. You can get some engines going, and we have removal to deal with some opponent's engines. Now, a medium round, I don't really know what this is. We were supposed to rate a medium round. I'm going to say it's like a 6 card round. In that kind of scenario, you can play K here. It might live. We can use our leader. In this situation, they don't have time to set up a lot of engines. We can't answer like an overwhelming number of them. We can answer a good number and maybe get some going. This is probably where it's strongest, but even then, it's not that strong. We gave a 7 out of 10 because we're trying to be nice to this deck. And it did manage to do some stuff when we were playing with it today in these medium length rounds. The other thing we were supposed to look at is how it compares against the top decks or the most common meta decks nowadays. So let's just start off with the fact this is not a very strong deck. That being said, it has some matchups where I think we have a good chance of winning. So let's take a look at some of these. So the Shield Wall dual type decks, this deck basically has no chance. They have so much power in long and short rounds, and we can't really take advantage of the lock. The nice thing is you can lock, say, a dual card, and then when it comes to your side, it'll be boosted, and you can duel with it. But, I mean, it won't have Zeal, and they're probably going to kill it. If you can get K here going and protect him, he can steal a lot of points for you, but here's the problem. They use resets, they use a lot of dual removals, which can get rid of our defender, and there's almost no way K here will live. And so in this case, I think the Shield Wall deck, it's extremely hard to win with. Or win against, I mean. So in that case, it's pretty close to hopeless, but maybe you could win. I have never beaten it, but we'll see. Now, one deck that they do, this deck actually does pretty well against, is the Firesworn Swarm deck. So they rely on some engines, but not very many, and mostly Fallen Knight, and maybe a couple guys create poems when you spawn stuff like that. But it's not too bad. There's only a few engines. We can answer a few engines. Invocation's pretty good, taking away one of them. We can Heat Wave another. Vincent takes out one very nicely. The Defender is a slight problem, but we can give it bleeding from the Aristocrat guy, one more like Hunter. We can move stuff with Strays of Spalla, which is useful here. And get rid of the Defenders, move them out of the row. And K here is actually pretty easy to protect most times here, because a lot of these decks play Devotion, so they don't have Heat Wave, and they don't have a move card, which is not going to play Hammond. And in that case, K won't get moved, which is nice. They can't remove it with Heat Wave. Usually they don't play Poison. If they do play Poison, you can Defender it, and it'll be pretty nice. So I think, and then as far as stealing boosts, they're going to play Dice Array, they're going to play Sacred Flame, they're going to boost their guys a whole bunch, and you're just going to steal all the points from those boosts after K. And usually K can actually live, so if you save K for round 3, you get a lot of value there. You can also play Damien. The leader ability works really well in this one because they usually play that 12 strength guy who damages himself by 2 for every, or reduces the damage on him by 2 for every Firesworn they have. You can lock that. You can then create a copy for 14 points, and then you can Vanamar and kill it. So you get 14, they lose 12, then you get another 3, or 2, 3. So it's like a 27-point swing you can do there, which is really nice. You can take shorter rounds off. They try and win with that. And this is one of the better matchups for this deck. That being said, it's still not great, but I think we have a decent chance of winning. As far as the Northern Realm Revenant deck goes, again, they just play like too many engines for us to answer all of them, which isn't great, but it's a little better than a Shield Wall deck, because typically their short rounds aren't as overwhelming. Maybe you could do something there. Moving is alright here, I guess. It's not fantastic. It's not really a matchup we'd expect to win, but I think we have a better chance than against Shield Wall. We didn't win any of these today either, unfortunately. So up against Nature's Gift, again, a lot like the Firesworn deck. Here, we can win mainly because of Kair, right? So we can steal all the points. Shaping Nature, we can take all the points. Hamadryad's Boost, we can take all the points. Take all the points from Herald Gord. So Kair, again, is like our win condition. The only problem with Nature's Gift is a lot of time, well, most of the time they're actually not playing Devotion. So they're going to be playing Heatwave and sometimes Becker's Rock Slide. And they have 3, usually Nature's Rebukes they're going to hit you with for removal. But if you can protect Kair ahead of time with a Iron Falcon Troubadour, get a Wagon out, you can actually keep him alive pretty well, and he'll do a great job stealing all their points in round 3. And that's very valuable. In this matchup, I think we have a good chance of winning. We were very close today. I think we won one, lost a couple. Almost won all of them, though, so that's good. And then here also we have the Overwhelming Hunger. This one's very interesting because our deck struggles against short rounds, and they have some very powerful short rounds with stuff like Ygritte killing with their leader ability, Goliath, Azrael, massive tempo plays they can use on us. But on the other hand, the leader ability boosts something, right? So again, if we have Kair and Kair is alive, we can get so many points off of them from using their leader ability. But the problem here is that they're most likely going to get a lot of points from that left higher vampire. If we can banish the Haunt with our Heatwave, and then we can manage to say lock the Ygritte, they're going to kill it, but maybe lock the Goliath and kill it and get your own Goliath. You won't get the summon out of your deck if you do that, but it's a massive tempo play. It's one of the things we can do to win this matchup. This one's not too bad. This it's winnable, but you really have to banish the Haunt with Heatwave, and you have to get some big plays with your leader ability. You probably need Damien to go off, and then you probably need Keith here to live around 3. And that's a lot to ask for, but I think it's possible. We were able to do today. We won a game against us today. I think we played 2, we won 1, lost 1. So it's winnable. Of course, the game we won, our opponent did play a Wild Hunt Rider when he didn't have dominance, and they had to play a second card, so went down at 2 cards in round 3, but we would have won anyway. I think we were up by like 15 or 16 points at the end of that. But this one's winnable, but it's still not favored, I'd say. But it's not as bad as it might seem at first, considering the short round power this deck has. Taking a look at the last 5 decks here, we're going to look at. So against Passive Flora, the Syndicate deck, usually they use the Hordes, cost 2 less, get 3 coins each round. I'm not sure what the name of this is. I use this all the time, but I can't remember the name. But against that Passive Flora deck, we actually do pretty well. It's a pretty solid matchup. Our deck does well against opponents who need to use a few engines, but not overwhelming numbers. Against opponents who boost a lot and who can't remove our stuff. So in this scenario, we have Heatwave for the Passive Flora. We can get rid of it. They use a few engines, especially Saul. We can boost. When they boost, we can use Kair to take stuff. They do use Poison quite frequently in this deck, and that will take out our Kair. But the thing is, we have our Defender. They'll probably Heatwave that. They can take out our Kair, but if we can keep their energy under control, we have a pretty good shot at winning this game. And the other really nice thing here is for Kair. A lot of times they'll answer Kair by taking it with Philippa, right? So you play Kair in the melee row with like 2 or 3 armor on it. They'll play Philippa, they'll take it, and you can lock it with your leader and spawn a copy across from it again, and you'll have a 7-point Kair. So it kind of negates that play a little bit, and you can kill it. It's not like we're favored here, but I think it's a good matchup for us. We have a good chance of winning this one. Better than most, I'd say. But the Precision Strike deck goes, it's not really the type of deck ours is designed to take on. I mean, they don't use too many engines. They don't have much that we really want to take and put in our deck. But probably Shiro doesn't destroy us too badly, though. And we can get a good amount of value out of the Armor on Wagon and Iron Falcon Troubadour. So it's not terrible. We can win this one. It's not the worst. It's not the best. It's what it is. 4 out of 10 in my opinion. Now, as a Skellige deck, the Patricidal Fury, the typically Warrior deck, against this, we have... This one's interesting. So, I would say we're not favored very well here. This is a tough matchup. They don't play a lot of engines. They play a lot of removal. They play a lot of big tempo point slammy type cards. And here's the thing though. If we can lock Arnulf the Patricide, right, and create a copy, and then kill it with Vanamar or Vincent, and Vincent will always kill the Patricide, the Arnulf, even if we don't lock it because it has Doomed, we can get a big point swing there. The problem is that most of our stuff's going to get removed. They do more damage to Armored with their Crushing Blow. The only nice thing here is that movement's pretty useful because we can move the on-crate longships they always play into the back row. And then if we don't have that, we can use One-Eyed Betsy, the bonus damage to Armored. She'll kill one right out. And Gascon can give us both of those. There's a lot of use for our deck here, but the opponent's deck's just so strong that they're definitely favored in this matchup. But there's ways to win it. The only problem here is that, again, like Cahir does nothing in this matchup usually. Usually they don't boost anything, because the on-crate Greatsword heals when you take damage, which doesn't count as a boost, so you don't get any points from that. So Cahir is usually useless, and that's usually how we win matchups against more powerful decks. But we still can do it, usually with the leader ability of Damien, and then Vincent and Vanamar. Usually that's how you want to win games with this deck. Now talking about Skellige, there's the Lippy deck. We do a little bit better here because the Lippy deck, they have Ceres, right? So they get a bunch of pulling out of their deck. That's a massive tempo play. If they don't push round 2, which they usually don't, and you go into a long round 3, you can do something throughout this game. If you can Invocation the Champion of Skullbug, that's massive, right? So that's a really big deal. You can also lock it and spawn a copy and Invocation it afterwards, so you don't have to kill it with Vanamar or something. And then you get a 12-point play later on, and you'll get a 14-point play right away. Movement here is pretty good if they're going to play the on-crate longships. They sometimes do, they don't always do it. You can get some points other places. It's a tough matchup. If they play Blue Boy Logos and decide to damage it 4 times and wipe your stuff out, then you're going to lose. But there's definitely ways to play against this deck, especially like not because our deck's good at playing against it, but there's ways to play against Lippy in general where you try really hard to win round 1, play your high tempo cards, do a lot of effort in round 1, force them into a round 2 where they don't have their deck swap, and then you can win that way. So this is less about how good our deck is against Lippy, but Lippy is counterable via your playstyle, and I think this deck has what it takes to maybe win round 2. Maybe it should be a 3, but we're going to give it a 4, just because I feel like this matchup's one that's usually winnable through playstyle, even if your deck's not the strongest. And lastly, we'll talk about Deadeye Ambush. So this is where they spawn all their elf tokens, they play the scenario, they get Erlin out of their deck. We really struggle versus this. They don't boost very much except Isengrim. And I mean, you can't get too many points out of Cahir then. They have a lot of removal usually. Well, not a lot. They usually play like Dual Blefo Bowman. A lot of stuff that does like 2 or 3 damage, and they want to get value out of that 2 or 3 damage, and that 2 or 3 damage is just what they need to take the armor off our Iron Falcon infantry, or something we put with Wagon, put armor on. So this is a really hard matchup. We don't get a lot of removal. They don't play a lot of big stuff, so we can't make massive swings with our leader. We can still heat wave their scenario, but I mean, almost any deck can do that. Doesn't mean our deck has a good matchup. So this one's tough to win. Overall, we have some decent matchups, but most of them are not favored for us, and we have to win through either luck or skill or some combination of them. I mean, we do bribery, so there's always a chance, right? Alright, then the last thing we're supposed to do for this video, looking at this deck, is take a look at some alternatives that we have in the deck, maybe some sidecars we could put in, that type of thing. So we'll take a look starting at neutral. There's a couple things we want to point out. So we could always add a Squirrel in. Squirrel's useful. I'm not sure why this premium card's not working right now. Thanks, Squirrel. But we can add Squirrel in, take out probably 1 Wagon for a Squirrel. That's not bad. That's a good alternative to what we have. As far as the other neutral cards go, giving armor is useful. So a Mantlet would be nice here. We could fit this in. This is actually a pretty solid card to add. Probably take out the Elbow Pikemans for Mantlet, or have 1 and 1. Probably you could have both. That'd be nice. This is a good option. Think about putting this in actually in this deck. As far as other choices in the neutral cards, I mean, we could always use Artifact Compression if you want. That's a fun one. But yeah, that's about it for neutral cards. If you want to win with this deck, here's the thing. So this deck mainly wins through surprise or cards your opponent can't counter, like K here, or you surprise them with something. So the ultimate way we could add to this deck, I think this would be the best option to increase our win rate, would be to add Geralt Yrden, right? So we have trouble versus overwhelming engine decks, or even a different Geralt. Where's Yrden? Here he is. Up here somewhere. So this can help reset entire row if they have massive numbers of boosts. We need something that has a massive swing that we can just add to our deck, and Yrden probably fits that the best. So I'd say he's probably the best addition to our deck. You can always, I mean, Scorch is, no, we're not going to use Scorch, but Yrden's a good option, or you can use one of the Geralt cards if you want. I would say the spot with Gascon or One-Eyed Betsy, you can remove one of these pretty easily, and add either of these by modifying your deck a little bit. The thing is, when we're talking about removing cards for our deck, we want to, obviously, removing all the bandits would probably make our deck stronger, but we're going to play this assuming we want to play a bandit deck, and so we're going to leave most of the bandit cards in. But I'd say the best option is probably put in with the Geralt cards, most likely Yrden, maybe Igni, by removing either Gascon or One-Eyed Betsy, then shifting your points around here a little bit. Maybe take out a pikeman for a squirrel, something like that. Now as far as actual Nilfgaard cards go, a lot of these Nilfgaard cards, here's the thing. So we have like 8 or 9 bandit cards in our deck, right? So we can't add too many like tribal factions or whatever you want to call them here. So like we can't add a bunch of aristocrats with the Masquerade Ball because we don't have room in our deck to include those, while also using the cards we need like Heatwave and Damien and Invocation, Bribery. So we don't have room to add this, so we can't add like a soldier package. I mean, we could add a soldier package, and you can steal a Carrick Frigate and maybe win by using Carrick Frigate against the Northern Realms player. But really, we don't have the room for it. The other thing is we don't have room for Masquerade Ball with its aristocrats, because we have, what do we have, like, we have K here and we have 2 Vermorhelm Hunters. We could possibly fit in a Masquerade Ball. So we go Masquerade Ball, and then we have drop the Elbow Pikemans for the aristocrat 5 strength person. I never remember these cards' names when I need to. The Thirsty Dame. And then you'd have to shift your points around a little bit. We'd probably have to drop a Niromancy for it. Or we could also drop a Gascon and One-Eyed Betsy, but at that point we're losing a lot of our bandits. And it's less of a bandit deck, and might as well just remove everything at that point. That's a bandit. But that's an option. You could try that out if you don't want to make your deck too bandit heavy. Take these 2 out, add in Thirsty Dame, the ball. The ball's very strong. It's one of the strongest things Nilfgaard has, but I don't know if it's enough to make Nilfgaard good. Brathans is really good. You could substitute him in for one of these guys. Is better than Gascon, honestly. It is 1 provision more, but it's definitely better than Gascon. Although Gascon does give you an Assimilate, so I mean, there's that. Stefan's really good, but we couldn't fit a lot of tactics in while also keeping the number of engines and the number of bandits we wanted to try and make it a bandit deck. So there's options here. You can always swap out 1 or 2, see what you like. It's a lot of fun. We didn't include the Letho Auxeret package. Again, we didn't really have room in our deck. That's an option though. I mean, as far as single side cards to include, like if you want to swap 1 card out for another, the weakest stuff we have is probably Wagon. It's way more useful than I thought it would be, but I don't know if we need 2 wagons. You'd probably drop a wagon. Maybe you can drop Pikemans, that's for sure, if you want to try something else out. We just put these in because we haven't used Pikeman in a long time. We want to try out a couple more engines to give us more points. You could drop Bribery since we don't have a tutor for it, other than Niromancy. Those are some options. And in that point range, you could probably fit in like a Urchin of Eckenwald. If you want to use a Purify, you can put in the Cupbearer. If you want to reset, you can add in Peter. You know, there's this type of options that Northern Realms typically has. But as far as the lower provision cards go, I mean, we have mostly what we need. We don't really have room to include a package, so it would have to be more one-of cards. The other thing is here, Tourney Joust would be a great addition, and we could probably add in 2 Fangs of the Empire and the Van Morlehelm's Cupbearer as a small poison package. But overall, there's not too many single card additions I'd make. The other thing of note is that if you're feeling ambitious here, Battle Preparation gives armor, right? So this is a very useful card in our deck. We could add a Battle Preparation. It gives armor to our Iron Falcon infantry. It boosts our other soldiers, which we don't have many of, but typically for this card, the value comes from being on a soldier, right? So it gives you an extra 2 points of boost, and then the 2 armor, right? So theoretically, if they kill the armor, it's worth 8. If they don't kill the armor, it's worth 6 or 4, which is alright. But if we get points from the armor, not having it on a soldier is fine. Because if we play on, say, Iron Falcon Infantry and we get 2 boosts, it's the same amount of points as if we had played it on a soldier. And they'll probably actually remove the armor on the infantry, so we get some value there. This is a solid addition you can try out. That's about it. So hopefully everyone liked this, and if you want to see more decks in the future or have any more comments on this, let me know down below.